Muslim ibn Aqil comes with his entourage of 4,000 and they camp outside the gate of the fortress. Ibn Ziyad, the shrewd politician that he is, he assesses who is out there, which tribes are out there. And from every one of the tribes that he sees, he finds a sympathizer in his own group and he negotiates a deal with them to cut off one tribe after another, right? You realize the Arabs at that time were tribes and every tribe is going to follow its leader. And so what he does is he works out with every single tribe, what do they need that they're going to not support Hussein and the Shia or the uprising against him. And slowly, and so much so, Al-Tabari and others, they mention, he even used mothers and fathers against their children. That he sent the mothers in to say that, come home now, can't you see there are so many people, don't worry about it, I don't want to lose you. It's emotional blackmail. And the fathers also said to their sons that, what are you going to do when the Syrians arrive with their troops? Are you going to die in battle? For what cause? Come home now. So he used whatever means that he can, and one by one, and in front of his very eyes, Muslim ibn Aqil's eyes, people began deserting the army until within that day, beginning in the morning at 4,000, by the time Asr comes along, less than 70 men are left. From 4,000, and again, remember, they are leaving in droves because Muslim ibn Ziyad is negotiating with every tribe. And he's sending them bribes and he's doing whatever he can. You stop and I'll give you this. You remove your men and I'll give you that. And with a little bit of bribes, they all dispersed. And by the time Muslim ibn Aqil prays Maghrib, barely 30 people prayed Salah behind him. And when he turned around and darkness has fallen, from 30 it is now 10. And he is obviously fuming and angry, and he is remonstrating with them, how could you have done this and that? Now what are we going to do? 10 people outside the gate, right? And he decides to basically regroup and spend the night in the quarters of the Kinda. The Kinda was one of the main supporters of Shi'atu Ali, the tribe of Kinda. And in those days, the city was divided into different tribes, like each tribe lived in its own area. So he left the fortress and he walked his way back to Kinda with these 10 people. And subhanAllah, under the cover of night, and as he's walking in the alleyways, every one of these 10 slinks away until he literally finds himself alone, discarded, without even a shelter over his head, without even money or food or drink. Like literally to the last man, they abandoned the cousin of Hussein, and that is Muslim ibn Aqil, the grandson of Abu Talib. Muslim ibn Aqil ibn Abi Talib, this is the grandson of Abu Talib. They abandoned him down to a last man. How long did it take them? 12 hours. What would it require? Just money and bribes. That's all was required. And they all disappeared. And Muslim ibn Aqil is literally left penniless in a city that had promised 40,000 men. He doesn't even have food and water. And after a while, in the middle of the night, tired, hungry, thirsty, he is forced to go to an anonymous door, put his tawakkul in Allah, he knocks on the door. And an old lady of Kinda opens up and he says, I am a beggar wanting some food and water. Subhanallah, this is the cousin of Hussein. I need some food and water. He's hungry, what is he going to do? And so the lady gives him whatever, some water and whatnot, and then he remains standing. She says, shoo, get away, I gave you what you wanted. But clearly something, you can tell this isn't just a beggar. And he decides to risk it. And he tells her, and it's an old lady, he tells her, I am Muslim ibn Aqil. Can you help me? Begging from an old lady because there's nothing else he can do. The lady has pity on him and she says, come, I will protect you. So he goes into her house, and the next morning her son comes from work to visit his mother, and there's a man in the house, so she has to explain. And she says, my son, please, I beg you, do not expose this man. He is Muslim ibn Aqil. But the son is greedy for money as well. And the son, within a day or two, he makes an excuse, he has to go to the masjid because he doesn't want to tell his mother that he's going. So he pretends to go to the masjid. He actually does go to the masjid. In the masjid, he sees the lieutenant of Ibn Ziyad, and he tells the lieutenant that I have Muslim ibn Aqil in my house, send the troops. And so the next thing Ibn Aqil knows, his whole house is surrounded by troops. He tries to fight whatever he can, but obviously one man against a convoy, and also they threaten to burn the house down, and he doesn't want to cause harm to the old lady, and so he exits and he surrenders. And one of the people who is famous, but again these names have to just be glossed on, his name is Abdul Rahman ibn Muhammad ibn al-Ash'ath, a very famous Ibn al-Ash'ath, well known to the historians. He was the leader of this entourage to arrest him. He promises him, I won't harm you, even though he was to break the promise. And so he surrenders. Ibn Aqil surrenders, and on his way to the governor's house, Ibn al-Ash'ath, he has a lot of pros and cons, and he has, again, historians have a lot to talk about him, but he did have some soft spot in the end of the day. And Ibn Aqil made Ibn al-Ash'ath promise one thing, just one thing, whatever you do with me, just one thing. Get the message to Hussein that Ibn Aqil has sent you, that he has been taken prisoner, and for all he knows he might be killed, and the message is, get back to Mecca, go away, the people of Kufa will betray you, leave, flee for your lives. This is the message, right? And Ibn al-Ash'ath promised, okay, whatever happens, I will get this message to him, right? Don't worry then, that you have from me. And in fact, as we will see, he did do that. So Ibn Aqil says to Ibn al-Ash'ath, go tell Hussein, he's on his way, I sent him a letter, he must be on his way now. Go tell him that the Kufans have lied, they've betrayed me, and flee back to Mecca and Medina. Do not step foot in Kufa. So later on in that day, after he goes to the governor, and the governor also beats him up and is harsh and rude to him, and that day was the day of Arafah, the 9th of Dhul Hijjah in the 60th year of the Hijrah. So we have 1 month left before the massacre. On the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, on the holiest day of the year, Mustab ibn Aqil, the grandson of Abu Talib, the son of the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, the first cousin of Hussein, he is taken to the highest ramparts on the fortress, and in front of the whole city, he is thrown to his death, to be killed in a humiliating manner. And the last words that he said before istighfar and tahleel and shahada, the last word that he said, "O Allah, you be the judge between us and our own Shia, our own people. They deceived us and they deserted us." He said that's the last thing he said before the kalima and before the shahada. You be the judge, O Allah. They promised, and now here I am, not a single man to defend me. And of course, Hussein is on his way, and he has just now, Muslim ibn Aqil has been killed. Hussein has no way of knowing this now, right? The only letter he got was, now remember, this is obviously before the age of telephones, internet, media. It will take at least 2.5 weeks from Kufa to Mecca, at least 2.5 weeks to get a message there, right? And therefore Hussein gets the message, come immediately. Khalas, he packed his bags, as we'll talk about, he left, right? He has no idea what's happening in Kufa. The people have been betrayed, his cousin has been killed, the host that hosted him as well was not just killed but crucified in the city center. And a number of other key players were killed and their bodies put in the city center for everybody to see. And the message is being given that this is what's going to happen if you turn against the Umayyad dynasty. Now remember, Ibn Ziyad had entered Kufa with only 17 men. And the infrastructure basically agreed to follow Ibn Ziyad. He didn't have the police entering. He didn't have the army right now. He didn't have any group. This was an instantaneous message that Yazid sends Ibn Ziyad with a small entourage. It was just the fear of what might happen if they disobey Ibn Ziyad that caused, and of course bribery, that caused all of the Kufans to basically disappear when they were most needed. And this was but a sign of what is about to happen. The killing of Ibn Aqil and the betrayal of Ibn Aqil was just one sign of what's going to happen. Now, all of this took place in Kufa. Let's now go to Medina. What's happening in Medina? Ibn Aqil was killed either 9th or 10th of Dhul Hijjah. And Muslim Ibn Aqil, of course, had sent the letter to Hussein. Hussein has already gotten the letter weeks ago, right before his death, before the death of Muslim ibn Aqil. And he makes his preparation to leave and he announces that I am going. Now Mecca is a bit safer. The Umayyads don't have that much control over Mecca, so he can make some announcements. The people are more free to do as they please. He makes an announcement, he is going to Kufa. In Mecca, every single one of the senior Sahaba that was alive advised him against it. And we have so many narrations, even in books of hadith, not just books of history. In books of hadith, we have narrations that Abdullah ibn Abbas especially, and Abdullah ibn Abbas is also Ahl al-Bayt, right? Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Abbas is the cousin of Ali, his father's cousin. Abdullah ibn Abbas is way senior to Hussein in terms of age and wisdom and participation in the ghazawat. Abdullah ibn Umar, Jabir ibn Abdullah comes to Mecca and warns him. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, every one of the Sahaba that was in the Hijaz, and they heard that he's preparing to basically, because this is a preparation that is going to be war. You're going to Kufa, you're going to have the people of Kufa behind you, and the Umayyads on the other side. This is going to be war. All of the Sahaba were opposed to this. They've been through enough. And they feel that Hussein is being a little bit rash. That he was young when Siffin and Jamal took place. He's not old enough to realize the dangers or whatnot. Hussein, calm down. Hussein, this is not the way to go forward. You're going to cause destruction. You're not going to bring about any good. But Hussein was insistent, and he showed them the letters of the people of Iraq. And he said, look at all of these letters. And he had two bags full. Now what are bags? These are the massive bags